What's up, Midnight Strikers? I am back for another review, and today we're going to be talking about Grand Theft Auto, specifically to begin the series review that I unveiled about a week ago. So, I've played Grand Theft Auto for PlayStation 1, first game in the series, and let me tell you, it's a for the fans only game. That's right. If you want to start with Grand Theft Auto, I would suggest picking up Grand Theft Auto 3 or Grand Theft Auto Vice City and starting from there and moving your way up. You would probably want to avoid these games like the plague, and that's kind of what I was thinking too when I first found out about these games and how they are top-down, like this. That's what they look like. They're kind of like Grand Theft Auto Advance. They're top-down, they're very cartoonish, and the control scheme is very, for lack of a better word, wonky. And I say wonky because whenever you're in a car and you're traversing down on the screen, the camera will zoom out at high speeds to try and compensate. And instead of enhancing your gameplay experience much like it is supposed to be doing, much like it was put there for, it ends up hindering you. And it ends up actually cutting off and obscuring your view, especially when you have to worry about the wonky control setup. It's pretty normal, you know, you press X to go, and for some reason you have to press triangle to back up. I mean, in every other GTA game that I've played, see, I haven't played this one or Grand Theft Auto Advance, so no, I can't judge those, but every other Grand Theft Auto game I've played, triangle is entering the car, and either square, or in the newer games, one of the triggers is to back up. This is very wonky for a lot of reasons. Well, one, because every time I back up, I keep pressing square, and it feels very off. It feels very weird, and maybe it's just because I'm not used to it, but it hindered my gameplay experience greatly. And this is one of those games with really no mission structure at all. It's just basically you're going and traversing through a number of levels in different cities. Liberty City, Vice City, and San Andreas, of course, the three cities that every GTA game takes place in, with the exception of GTA 2 and the London expansion packs, which I won't be covering in this series review because I actually don't own them, and I can't find anyone who does, so I can't buy them. So we'll just, for all intents and purposes, be covering the main games, or at least the games that I have played. So basically, back to Grand Theft Auto 1, the control setup is very wonky, and it's not just because I'm not used to it, in my opinion. I mean, I've played so many different games. I mean, like Metal Gear Solid, for example. Metal Gear Solid has a very, very steep learning curve for the controls. And I overcame that in like my first week or so of playing it, especially the PS2 version of Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3, and even, you know, playing it for 1, where circle is to select your stuff. And in the newer HD remasters and the PS3 versions, they changed this to X, which is more standardized, but I'm still used to both. I mean, I can adapt. It's just, with Grand Theft Auto, I can't, for some reason. And it's just one of those things where it hinders your gameplay experience greatly. Triangle is to back up, and square is to enter the car. But anyways, with this, every time you're traversing, we'll just say down on the television screen, the control scheme is reversed to add insult to injury. So instead of using the arrow keys or the D-pad like you're supposed to, you have to press right to go left and left to go right. Yes, that's right. And not to mention the fact that you have tank controls or pseudo-tank controls when you're out of the car, because not to mention you have to use the arrow, the D-pad, why do I keep saying arrow keys? The D-pad, in order to move your character, kind of position him or her around in the direction that you want to go, and then you have to hit X. Yes, that's right, you have to hit X, and hold X as if you're driving a vehicle. This makes no sense to me. They might as well have had you just start in a vehicle and just have you drive by and not be able to get out of your vehicle. It just makes no sense to me why they would do this. Now, Grand Theft Auto initially came to the board as a game known as Race and Chase, and there is a significant number of details on that, and one screenshot that I have come to see. And the screenshot, sadly looks better than the final product. The screenshot actually had, very fleshed out details, lots of different various polygons. It wasn't necessarily pixelated, and it didn't look as cartoony. The only thing that I will give this game credit for in its graphics is, as you can see right here, it is very colorful, and it would probably pass as a good Super Nintendo game, but the fact of the matter is it's a PlayStation 1 game, and it doesn't really give you much wiggle room per se. Now, you can go out and explore the cities of San Andreas, Liberty City, and Vice City, but you have to progress through the game, and in order to do that, you have to answer various telephone calls with missions. And the missions you would think would have some sort of cohesive plot, but nope, they're random. They are random missions, and you're doing them as sort of this crime lord. You're doing work for a crime lord in order to up your score or your reputation or something like that. It doesn't really make sense at all in any sense of the word sense. And you get to choose your character, so there's no real bonding per se with the character, with the lead. Even GTA 3, for God's sakes, has some sort of bonding, and Claude doesn't talk at all. So they kind of messed up with this one, but for a game that actually started a multi-billion-dollar franchise, and basically it kind of launched off and took flight with GTA 3, but this is the game that started it all. Without this, we would not have GTA 3, Vice City, San Andreas, or any of the other games. So this is where it started. Now, the main problem with this game, though, is it just simply isn't fun. I mean, I've tried playing it in multiple different ways. I've tried playing it for the missions. I've tried playing it rampage style. Look for different guns. All I could find is a pistol and some sort of automatic weapon. But it's not fun. That's really all I can say. That's the game's biggest flaw. The things that they need to fix, or would have needed to fix before they released it, are probably very simplistic things that I'm going to give DMA Design, because, it's Rockstar, but they weren't Rockstar yet. This was probably actually released after Rockstar acquired DMA Design, but anyways, the things that this game could have done better. Revamp the control scheme. I don't care if it's top-down. I don't care if it's Super Nintendo graphics. It's colorful. It looks nice. It's a breath of fresh air compared to some of the other stuff that was coming out at the time. But, it's still lackluster in those terms. But in all honesty, it works for what it needs to. What they need to focus on are the gameplay mechanics, the controls, the fun element. Doing fetch missions and fetch quests and ramming into people is only fun for a short while. Then it kind of gets a little monotonous. Scorekeeping, keeping track of scores, is probably one of the most cookie-cutter retro ideas in video gaming there is. So they could have probably, one-upped it to the standard of the games at the time and maybe made some sort of changes and made the actual missions tie together a little bit better to form a cohesive plot. And plot is another thing. That's a really big thing. So it's missing all of that. And now, I haven't played Grand Theft Auto 2, but, I know you can't judge a book by its cover, or in this case, a video game, but it honestly, aside from maybe a few better pixels here and there, and a few better, a few textures that are a little bit more polished up, it looks pretty much the same thing. Or like the same thing, I should say. But, different world. Or different universe, I should say. Because both of these games are from a different universe. I believe so. But, overall, I gotta pick it up now. For Grand Theft Auto, it is a purchase. If you're a diehard Grand Theft Auto fan, this game, you're gonna want to play it. You're gonna want to see GTA from where it began, where it started. If not, if you haven't played a single GTA game ever in your life and you want to pick up one, play Vice City, play Grand Theft Auto 3 first. Actually, play Grand Theft Auto 3. That's basically where everyone started playing it from that point on. That's where the series basically took off. So play GTA 3. That's pretty much my final recommendation. Jeez, I don't want to be too mean to this game. One innovation that I found quite remarkable was the fact that there is spoken dialogue in this game. For a game on the PlayStation 1 that is sprite-based, such as this one, normally the dialogue would be construed or constricted to text boxes. Now, for the missions, this is the case. There's just text scrolling and a bunch of gibberish, audible gibberish over the phone. But, that's kind of like one of those things, like in Peanuts, where there's that audible gibberish and then the person on screen, you can actually see where they are. It's kind of like that. That's actually a thing. But for the random pedestrians, they'll actually shout things like, "Oh, screw you, asshole," and stuff like that at you. Sometimes, if you, run into them or something, or if you come up behind them and punch them, they will react accordingly. That is one thing that I did appreciate and found to be quite laughable, quite enjoyable. But other than that, this game is just very quirky in nature and just overall, I'm going to say below average. So I'm probably going to give this one a 4.5 or a 5 out of 10. Honestly, I'll give it a 5 just because of the voices and the spoken dialogue. But overall, this is a GTA game that you're going to want to get only if you're a diehard fan. So, 5 out of 10. This is Midnight Strike 3625. Hopefully GTA 2 will fare a little bit better on my radar, but I'm not holding my breath. Keep calm and rock on, everyone.